teaching you to make a pot. And he said, men said slowly, if you ever learn to make a pot, it will not be from me.
Right. And men got even very upset, right? Maybe brought up, what do you think it brought up in men?
His son, because he said, I didn't even get to teach my son how to make a pot, so I won't be teaching this orphan kid.
Mm-hmm. It brought up feelings of grief, depression, probably, anger maybe, that Tree Ear reminds him. We don't really know, but definitely emotion, because you can read it in his voice.
I think Tree Ear should, like, one day men might take Tree Ear in and say, you're my new son or something, but never fake it about his old son.
That's a good prediction. That's good. Okay, chapter 9 on 96. Let's start there. Tree Ear could hardly breathe on his walk home. Men's words rang in his ears over and over. Orphaned one, father to son, not my son. He realized now what he had never thought to notice before. All the other apprentices were indeed sons of the potters. It's not my fault, Tree Ear wanted to shout. He wanted to run all the way back to men and scream the words. It's not my fault you lost your son, not my fault that I am an orphan. Why must it be father to son? If the pot is made well, does it matter whose son made it? Crane Man hailed him cheerfully from under the bridge with the news that 2 pairs of sandals were complete. Tree Ear feigned eagerness as he tried them on. So feigned means he faked eagerness, right? Because he's upset, but he knows Crane Man really worked hard on those sandals, so he wants to act at least like he's excited about it. Tree Ear feigned eagerness as he tried them on, but he knew that Crane Man had read his troubled face at once. Crane Man said nothing, only waited. Tree Ear tied the sandals together carefully in pairs. As he hung them up in a safe place under the bridge, he said, the potter's trade passes from father to son here in Cholpo. Is it thus everywhere? A story tells the answer to that, Crane Man replied, which is not unusual for Crane Man to tell a story or a fable or a proverb. A story tells the answer to that, Crane Man replied. He hobbled over to a large rock and sat down. Tree Ear knelt beside him. Potters have not always been considered artists, you know. In the long ago days, when potters made objects for use and not beauty, it was considered a poor trade indeed. None wished for their sons to have such a lowly life. Year after year, more sons left the trade until at last there were not enough potters to supply the needs of the people. So the king at the time decreed that sons of potters must become potters themselves. So what happened there? Why did that become a tradition or sort of a law?
So the other, so it'll pass down from generation to generation.
But why why did they have to do this in the first place?
So there can be more potters.
What'd you say? Sorry.
There can be more potters.
Right, because they needed more potters. They did. Tree Ear shook his head and even managed a grim smile. Imagine, sons running away from what he wished most to do. I do not know if it is still a law, Crane Man continued, but a well-kept tradition can be stronger than law. Tree Ear nodded. At least he knew now that it would be useless to leave Cholpo in search of another master. Crane Man stood and leaned on his crutch to stretch out his good leg. He glanced sideways at Tree Ear. My friend, the same wind that blows one door shut often blows another open.
Does that mean, like, if one door closes, another one opens?
What, beyond that, what does that sort of mean, both of those phrases?
If something bad happens, something's good gonna come and open up.
Good, good. I think opportunity, maybe another opportunity will come around eventually. Anyone else? Any other thoughts on that? We do say a lot though, when one door closes, another one opens. That's the one we most likely
But not
use.
close.
I think it's like you're mad about something and you're happy on the other side.
What
Proverbs, huh? Tree Ear stood too and went to fetch the supper bowl. It sometimes took him a while to figure out Crane Man's riddles, but he preferred puzzling over them to being told what they meant. Work no longer felt the same to Tree Ear. He now realized that he had been working all along toward the goal of being allowed to make a pot. With that hope gone, so went his eagerness to work. So, what's happened now?
He's losing hope. He's losing hope that he's gonna make a pot.
Right. He's got a shift in attitude about his work now. He isn't inspired anymore because he knows he's not going to be able to make a pot under men. So, you know, he loved his work so much that he worked so hard before, but now things are different.
Yeah, because he thought he was gonna be able to make a pot at the greatest pot.
With that hope gone, so went his eagerness to work. More than ever, he wished that he had not been so rash as to offer to take men's vessels to sawn dough. He would do it, not for the old potter, he thought bitterly, but for Ajamoth. Tree Ear checked the clay at the draining site. Some of the clay balls were drying out too quickly. He dampened the cloths that covered them. Then, using a wooden blade, he scored the surface of the clay in the drainage bed so it would dry faster. How much slower the work went when the joy of it was gone. The clay in the bed was coming along well. It would be ready to form into balls soon. Tree Ear took up a handful of clay from the corner of the bed and kneaded it. Absent-mindedly, he began to form a petal shape. After so many attempts at making the petal that was eventually used for the water pot, his hands seemed to work of their own accord, flattening here, pinching there. Now, why do you think his hands automatically do that so easily?
He's
He's
done
done
it
it
so many times.
Muscle memory, because he's done it a lot.
Exactly.
So he's not on the trip right now. He's going on it.
Right, they're preparing.
Oh, okay.
Men's trying to get his pottery ready. But him being able to just get into that routine with his hands and how they just work without him even having to think about it, that's really the sign of an artist once you have mastered your craft, I think. What do you guys think?
When you do it so many times, you already know what it is.
Kind of like a
Like if you
habit,
play
I guess.
football,
Mm-hmm.
you already know how to play football.
Right. Good. Tree Ear's hands paused in mid-motion. Slowly he brought the half-formed petal up to eye level and examined it closely. Molding, he thought. There was more than one way to make a piece of pottery. Throwing, of course, using the wheel to assist in shaping a symmetrical piece. But the little animals atop the incense burners, the handles of some vessels, the water droppers, they were not thrown. They were molded by hand, without any aid from the wheel. For the first time in days, Tree Ear grinned as he crushed the petal back into a fistful of clay. The second door had just blown open.
So his hope came back.
Because,
There's opportunities coming.
right, why?
Because he's thinking maybe I can grow. Or I can
Well, he wouldn't have the wheel like the regular potters have. So you
You could
throw
do it.
when you have a wheel. He's thinking, he's been putting the clay in his hands. So he's thinking, why couldn't I just make a pot out of molding? Just molding it.
mold.
Yeah, just molding it by hand. That's what he's thinking. He's thinking, I have to use the resources that I have, which is pretty much just my hands.